Good afternoon. I'm James Brierton. It is Sunday, September 11th, 2022. We are coming up on the 6 p.m. hour, and the National Weather Service has just issued a tornado warning for Pender County in North Carolina. This is just outside the Jacksonville area, between Wilmington and Jacksonville on the North Carolina coast. Let's take a look here at the bulletin from the National Weather Service. This is for northeastern Pender County in southeastern North Carolina until 6:15. So we have about 15 minutes left on this tornado warning, as the National Weather Service has been tracking a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado, and it is moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. This will be near Murraytown around 6:05 and White Stocking by 6:10. Other locations in this warning do also include the Pender Memorial Hospital and St. Helena. So as we always tell you, during tornado warnings, you want to seek shelter inside a sturdy building. You want to be on the first floor of that sturdy building, preferably in a basement, but I know so many of us don't have basements, so that may not be an option. So in that case, you want to be on the lowest level, that first floor, in the most interior room possible, with as many walls between you and the outside world as possible, and you're going to want to avoid any windows. So if you know anybody right now that's in this area, do give them a call. This is also along portions of Interstate 40 where it meets up with Route 53. Again, this is moving to the north and to the east, so let's switch this on over here. We're currently looking at the heavy rain, but if we switch this on over to velocity, what we're going to be looking for is an area where the winds are rotating inside this thunderstorm, where the greens and the reds come together. That would be the best indication of where this possible tornado may be. And I think if we look at about the time the National Weather Service issued this warning, which was about 5:45 or so, it was going to be just to the west of I-40. Just outside of St. Helena, and you can kind of see it right on in here. It's not all of that clear, but you can see we have some of the reds and the greens relatively close together, and you can see it kind of got its genesis right about on here. Of course, this red area is the polygon we are watching. This is moving to the north and to the east, and so if we take this back to about real time, the possible tornado right now is crossing I-40 near 53, moving out of the St. Helena area. This will be kind of going right along the 53 corridor here over the course of the next 15 minutes or so. This is Pender County in North Carolina. If you are just joining us, I'm James Brierton, watching this with you from our studios here in Charlotte, and we'll take a look at the radar in Wilmington to see if it has a different perspective. We're kind of cutting the difference between the radar based out of Wilmington and the radar in Morehead City, and again, it's not all of that clear to see, but if I were to put this radar into motion, I'm wondering if the perspective is any different for this possible tornado. Again, as we look at it about 5:30 or so, the area of interest was right on in here and kind of moving right on over the town and towards I-40 and the Route 53 area just to the east of US 421. And so if we put this into motion, again, the radar is not giving us a terribly strong signature, but we can kind of see where just briefly we did kind of see across several frames here. If I take it back, right about here where it's crossing the I-40 area at about 5:47, you can see we do have a little bit of what is technically green and the reds right on in here. So again, this is now moving off to the north and to the east. We'll get you back out to the latest radar image, and we'll keep a close eye on this. I think we're going to switch on back over, since we'll be getting closer to the Morehead City radar and further away from the radar operated by the Wilmington area. And we are right now about 4,500 feet up is the lowest radar scan that is available to us. And we're about 60 miles away from the radar site. So not terrible location as we are dealing with the natural operation of that radar to try to get a sense of what we are able to see or not see. This is, if I recall, the first tornado warning of the day. Rain today is much more scattered than it was yesterday. We got mostly breaks of clouds and sun across the Carolinas today, and that's allowing for a couple of these strong storms, that is, to get a little bit on the stronger side. And so this is, I think, the first convective warning we've had all day, whether it be a thunderstorm or a tornado warning, as we were dealing mostly with a flood threat yesterday and now watching for a couple of these strong cells to spin on up as we go through the rest of the evening hours. It's a very low-end risk today. Nothing too terribly overwhelming. As we switch back over to reflectivity, you can see some of these areas of heavy rain, some lightning associated with the thunderstorm that is now out ahead of our tornado warn cell over Richlands and Half Moon. You can even see some of the lightning associated with this. So if you are having any outdoor plans on the rest of your weekend here, remember, lightning is not a criteria for warning. So if you see lightning, hear thunder, seek shelter. Don't wait for a warning to come on out, because no amount of lightning is ever going to necessarily prompt a warning. It's always the wind, the hail, or the possible rotation that would prompt either a thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. Taking a look, just trying to see what's in this thunderstorm out over Richlands. Not seeing any sort of strong rotation. I mean, honestly, not seeing a whole lot of strong rotation right now on what is the thunderstorm capable of producing that tornado as it heads away from I-40 and along Route 53. If it were to hold together over the course of the next few minutes, or if this tornado warning were to be extended, then we would be talking about the Catherine Lake, Richlands, and Half Moon, Pumpkin City, Jacksonville area. But as of right now, I'm not seeing any indication that the Weather Service is going to keep this going much beyond the 11 minutes it has left. If you are just joining us here at 6:03 on this Sunday, we're watching a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado in Pender County, South Carolina. And what that means when they say that a thunderstorm is capable of producing a tornado is it's typically being detected on radar. There's not necessarily any indication that there's anything on the ground with this particular storm. What's interesting about this storm compared to some of the storms we saw yesterday is we had water spouts with thunderstorms that are being produced yesterday offshore and pushing onshore. Some remarkable images of water spouts that we saw during coverage right here on the Carolina Weather Group outside like the Sunset Beach area yesterday. This one is already on land, so we're not necessarily, of course, dealing with a water spout. We're dealing with the possibility of a weak tornado on the ground here. This is for northeastern Pender County. I'm going to take a look here in a moment at any of your questions or comments that are coming in as you're joining us on this Sunday, September 11th, here at 6:04, and we're going to keep on the air with you until this warning is cleared off. It is going to be active for another 10 minutes or so unless the Weather Service decides to let it go early, which would be in their discretion. Right now, this storm is under the jurisdiction, if you will, of the National Weather Service out of Wilmington. Elsewhere across the area, we are watching for some of these storms to get strong enough that they could try to spin up, as this one is attempting to do, but it is the only warning we have right now in all of the Carolinas. We don't have any other thunderstorm warnings, any other tornado warnings, not even any flash flood warnings to tell you about, so we are just sticking with this one. Pausing for just a moment, we're going to bring in some other Facebook groups here. And going to open up our tweet deck in case anyone is tweeting us at Carolina WX Group. But if you are just joining us, let's get Scotty Powell's page in here. There he is. If you're just joining us here on the extended network and extended reach of the Carolina Weather Group, my name is James Brierton. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are watching a tornado warning that has been issued by the National Weather Service for Pender County in southeastern North Carolina. This is kind of halfway between Wilmington and Jacksonville. And this storm warning went out a few moments ago as this thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was crossing I-40. The area of rotation is not all that clear right now on radar. It was a little bit clearer when the storm was back here. The storm has already progressed across the St. Helena area, crossed along I-40, and we were watching to see what was going to happen as it continued to move to the north and to the east along 53. We are looking right now from the Morehead City radar site. We do also have the benefit of a second radar perspective out of Wilmington, and we'll switch on over to that. I think the possible rotation is still kind of right on in here, pretty broad. Again, we are to the east of 40, moving along 53. So if you know anybody that might be traveling along this area, do give them a call. Let them know, especially if folks maybe are sneaking in another holiday trip and don't have their weather apps or the like scheduled or set to go off for Pender County if they're traveling. So that's always something to keep in mind as we are going to keep an eye on this. It's set to go until 6:15. This storm also capable of some small hail damage as it continues to move off to the north and to the east. What you're looking at on your screen right now is the radar velocity. This helps us detect not rain but wind inside these storms. And typically with a really tight rotation, you would see greens and reds kind of really close together. Luckily, I'm not seeing that with this particular storm. So we'll wait to see what the Weather Service does as we have about 7 minutes left on this warning that the National Weather Service office in Wilmington has issued. Again, it's moving off to the north and the east. The storm, while it may or may not be tornado warned at this point, would be near Maple Hill around 6:30. So downstream of this storm, just giving folks a little bit of a heads up. So timing it out, we're kind of coming past the Murraytown area, White Stocking around 6:10, and then if this were to hold together, Maple Hill around 6:30. You can also see downstream we have Richlands, Catherine Lake, and Half Moon. We have been watching a thunderstorm that is currently over the Richlands area. If we switch back over to reflectivity, show you some of the heavy rains, this is probably what you're used to seeing on radar. We don't have any sort of warning or anything right now, but torrential rain in Catherine Lake, Richlands, Half Moon. You can see we do have lightning associated with this storm as well. And if I switch back over to velocity, where we look for that potential rotation, I mean, you can see we do have winds kind of moving in opposite directions here on the radar. That's what the green and the red indicate to us. And so I'm kind of curious to see what might happen with that storm over the next few minutes or so. We're keeping a close eye on that. So again, our tornado warning that is active right now is right on in here in red for Pender County. This is active. This is an area of interest we'll keep an eye on over the next few minutes. What I'm going to switch to now is called Enhanced Echo Tops. It helps us determine how tall a storm is. The stronger a thunderstorm, the more strength it has. You can actually see that once again, it's that storm over Richlands that is nearly 49,000 feet, almost 50,000 feet tall, while the storm that is tornado warned is 30,000 feet. It's still capable of producing a tornado, and that's why we have the tornado warning on it. But if we were to put the echo tops into motion over the course of the last few minutes, you can kind of see what I suspect is going to be a trend that this storm is getting taller. It's getting stronger. So let's just manually drive this here. So just in the very last radar frame, we got near 50,000 feet with this storm over 25B, and that has grown since the previous scan. So between 556 and 602, we gained about 10,000 more feet on this storm. Meanwhile, our tornado warned storm, as of the latest radar scan, is showing about 30,000 feet, whereas in the previous one it had about 26. So it appears that one storm may be weakening while another strong storm is growing. And so that's why, while we do have an active tornado warning in effect on this storm because of its potential rotation characteristics, I'm going to watch this other storm while we're on the air with you here to see if anything manages to become of it. Of course, you can see scrolling at the bottom of your screen the latest warnings from the National Weather Service, and as I mentioned, we only have the one. So that tornado warning for Pender until 6:15, about 5 minutes away. If you've been watching with us on YouTube, where we stream nonstop, then you know you've been watching radar throughout the afternoon, and throughout the weekend. And so flash flood warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, and tornado warnings would all scroll at the bottom of your screen. We only have the one right now, but let's widen out while we wait to see what the Weather Service is going to do with that. I'm not seeing anything anything on radar too overwhelming, but you can see if we slide down the coast into the South Carolina area, this orange box does indicate a special marine warning. It's kind of like a severe thunderstorm warning, but over the water, and primarily would only be applicable to anyone who's going out on a boat. But we do have quite the line of storms right now developing from the sea breeze and outflow boundaries that extend not only along the Georgia coast from Darien and Brunswick through Wilmington Island and Savannah, but these are going to now be impacting Hilton Head area, coming into Beaufort, Edisto Beach, and we'll wait to see if this manages to kind of continue its growth up towards Folly Beach and Charleston as it continues to blossom and bloom and move off to the east. So these are an interesting line of storms that are kind of getting going this hour of the day, and we do have the ETV camera in Beaufort, courtesy of WeatherStem, and I'm trying to recall right now which way that camera may be facing, but as we'll bring it up on the air here and show you, this must be looking off to the east over the water and away from the storms, where things look relatively nice as the sun begins to end its day and transition to the earlier sunsets. But we'll watch this camera over the next few minutes to see if this line of storms manages to catch up with it. Elsewhere across the region, just kind of popcorn, if you will, along the I-95 corridor into the east, we have a few strong areas of rain, not seeing much lightning outside of the Beaufort area right now, but we'll watch to see if any of these storms manage to rotate, and we'll watch also for the possibility that 1 to 2 areas could get going back closer to the Piedmont. But again, right now what we're watching is just the single lone tornado warning that is for Pender County, and that goes another 2 minutes or so. We're going to switch back over to velocity. Not seeing any really strong indications of rotation with this tornado warning, but again, I'm watching this storm right now over Richlands, Catherine Lake, and Half Moon. This is just to the north and west of the Jacksonville area. The storm is going to be moving off to the north and to the east, but you can see every time we come to this storm, there is more and more lightning. And so we're going to watch to see as this storm continues to strengthen what it may be capable of. Switching back on over to the enhanced echo tops, I want to see how strong this storm is. Right now at about 48,000 feet. It's still trying to crest that 50,000 foot mark as this storm continues to grow in strength. We don't have any warnings on this storm right now because it's not meeting the criteria of either strong enough winds or strong enough hail to warrant a warning. But let me just see, I don't have my special weather statements on. I'll turn those on too. We'll wait to see if the Weather Service decides to issue a special weather statement. That's not really a warning, but that's I like to call it a quality of life bulletin when a storm is strong enough that it's going to certainly be noticeable and impactful. But if you're in this area, Richlands, Catherine Lake, Half Moon, seek shelter just because of the lightning threat, if nothing else. It is now 6:14. We're about a minute away from the time at which this tornado warning is set to expire. I will wait with you to see what the Weather Service decides to do, and they have now just let that tornado warning expire for Pender County. That risk associated with that thunderstorm has diminished beyond the tornado warning criteria, and we're going to hang out with you just for another minute or two. Like I said, I'm very interested to see. This is going to fall off. The ticker is going to stop in a moment. Pender County, you're now in the clear from the possible tornado threat, but I'm very curious to see what becomes of this thunderstorm that is trying to strengthen over the Richlands area. And so we'll hang with you just another minute or two right here on the expanded reach of the Carolina Weather Net, where we provide live coverage of things as we watch the storm outside the Jacksonville, North Carolina area in Onslow County to see if it manages to get itself going. As of this moment, we have no active warnings anyplace in the Carolinas. Like I said, that ticker at the bottom of the screen, there it goes. It has disappeared, not too surprisingly. All right, so we are now looking at what we call dual panel. On the left-hand side of your screen is the reflectivity for heavy rain. On the right-hand side is winds, and we're just doing some live storm analysis with you, waiting to see if this storm in Onslow County in the Richlands area manages to get going. And we also have another heavy area of rain outside of Holly Ridge near 17. I was looking on the left-hand side of the screen here. We're looking sometimes for a little bit like a shrimp kind of hook to it, the hook echo. This storm doesn't really have it. There was a little bit of curvature on the left-hand side of the screen, but nothing on the right to indicate rotation. The way a radar works is it spins around 360 degrees, kind of like you're taking a panorama photo with your phone. And so you can't really access that photo until you're done spinning around, and then you wait a beat for the phone, or in this case the radar, to process that image. And so that's why the radar images you're seeing here on the left-hand side of your screen are from 6:15. The right-hand side of your screen are from 6:13. It's currently 6:16. And so radar is a near real-time product, but it's not live. And so that's why I'm waiting just a few more beats here to see if we can get a couple more radar scans in to get an indication of what this storm that is trying to flirt with strength in Onslow County in the Catherine Lake, Half Moon, and Ridgelands area manages to do. Broadening back out, there aren't really any other storms right now that are really catching my attention. We do certainly have heavy rain pockets across the region, but the only places that we're seeing strengthening, the only places that we're seeing lightning is we're watching outside the Jacksonville, North Carolina area, and also with that sea breeze development along the South Carolina coast south of Charleston through Beaufort and Hilton Head and down along Savannah as well. And so you can see a good amount of lightning now all along this corridor, more or less the greater I-95 coastal corridor. And our Beaufort camera probably is still not going to show us what we need to see. A beautiful picture from WeatherStem, of course, but the storm is actually behind us. And so we'll wait to see in the next few minutes if that manages to produce anything on camera for us as well. Sliding back up the coast now, I suppose the other thing I can do is toggle between two radar sites and try to coax more images out for you. But again, I am seeing on the right-hand side of your screen lots of lightning, but also the mix of reds and greens. Nothing to indicate immediate rotation, but again, watching to see if maybe we can get just enough wind hooking back in on this storm, because I'm kind of curious to see. This is not an area right now that's going to be warned right off the bat, but if I was watching this off air, this is what I would be looking at. And since we're already on air, I'm going to hang out a minute with you and see if that manages to do anything. For point of comparison, we can look at the Kltx radar that is associated with Wilmington, but at this point it's getting further and further away, and I think our best bet is going to be that Morehead City radar. I can't even coax velocity pictures out of it right now for some particular reason. So we'll stay with the KMHX Morehead City radar, which is actually pretty well positioned to get a look at this storm. We're about 40 miles away, which puts us about 2,500 feet up in the air, because that radar beam, when it comes out and it's taking that panorama photo, if you will, does kind of get higher and higher in altitude as it gets further and further away from the radar site, because the curvature of the Earth actually is moving down as the beam is moving out. So let's stick with this a few more minutes. I'm going to switch some screens around here, make sure I'm not missing any of your comments as you're watching with us, not only on the Carolina Weather Group YouTube channel, but whenever we get a tornado warning, we also come up on Twitter and Twitch and Facebook and the like. Otherwise, you can find us streaming anytime on our YouTube channel. Check out the Carolina Weather Net with live conditions throughout the day, Skycams, forecasts, and more, as well as, of course, home to our weekly Wednesday show where we talk about weather science, technology, and more. While we hang out another few moments or so to wait to see what may or may not become of these storms in Onslow County, I do want to let you know that we will be watching for the possibility of more storms tomorrow. This is the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for tomorrow, and that darker red is a 1 out of 5 tier risk for storms. It's called marginal, and the only thing lesser than that is that light green, which is kind of your run-of-the-mill afternoon showers and thunderstorms. So we'll be watching for a few more storms kind of across the same area we were watching today, I-77 corridor off to the east, with storms that will also be associated with the Carolinas tomorrow, as a cold front will be moving through the area. The tornado risk is very low. The hail risk is very low. I mean, the overall storm threat is clearly very low. It's only a tier 1 out of 5, but the biggest thing we'll be watching for is this 5% chance of hail. Okay, I think we've got indication from the Weather Service that they're continuing to monitor. I've heard in the background, not sure if my mic was able to pick it up, it makes a kind of emergency alert system sound anytime our communication system mentions the word tornado. But in this case, somebody was just having a little side conversation and happened to mention the T word. But I heard it. I heard the indication sound and hopped on over. So we're going to hang out a minute with you here and continue to watch this storm. We actually have the ability to go into 4 boxes. And so what I can do is look at the rains in the top left, the velocity winds for any rotation in the top right, the hail threat in the bottom left, and now I've got the enhanced echo tops in the bottom right. And if I were to query them, we're still seeing cloud tops in the 40s, but we are way closer now to 40 than we are to 50. And so we'll give this a few more minutes here as we're up on the air with you already to see if this storm manages to strengthen at all. It was about 6:15 flirting with strengthening, and it may not be able to do it. It may not be able to do it right now, but we'll give it another radar scan here. I think we just got the updated velocity in the top right. And again, you see we got green here, but then we got red right on in here. And that makes me cautious. That makes me cautious. So Onslow County, Richlands area, half moon, be on alert. We don't have a warning to tell you about at this particular moment in time, but I am very curious to see what becomes of this storm. That's why we're still streaming with you live right now, waiting to see if this manages to do anything. If you're in Catherine Lake, the good news is this has moved out beyond you, because this storm is now off to your north and east, and it is moving north and east. But I'm looking at this little shape here on the left-hand side, combined with the fact that we've got winds in close proximity to each other, rotating away and towards the radar, which is what the red and the green indicate. I'm staying in this chair a minute. We're going to hang out here with you. Why we don't have a warning and why we're waiting, please like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. There, I said it. What a surprise. But, you can find us on YouTube, any place you watch YouTube, and our Carolina WeatherNet does stream. So even before I plopped down in the chair for the tornado warning that has now since come and went, you could have just left up what is our live dashboard with real-time weather conditions, Skycam's forecast, and, of course, real-time alerts from the Weather Service. And then my ugly mug or one of our colleagues here at the Carolina Weather Group will pop on as conditions warrant. All right, so we're continuing to watch here in Onslow County a thunderstorm that has piqued my interest. It's not warned, but it's trying. It's trying. It's trying. Lightning is an indication to us that a storm still has strength. Again, lightning is not an indication of whether or not we're going to get a warning on it. Lightning is so common that if lightning was a criteria for warning, there would be a lot of storm warnings. And warning is a balance of safety and not crying wolf. What I'm watching is like right here. We got green, we got red. Kissing. This is now crossing. I thought earlier it said 25 Bravo. Now I'm wondering if it says 25-8. I think it might be 25-8. So my apologies. U.S. route 25-8. 2058. Okay, in our latest radar scan, it's not overwhelming. The evidence of rotation inside this storm in Onslow County is not overwhelming. But frankly, it's better than I think what I saw, at least by the time I got to the chair for the Pender County tornado warning. That's not to say that the Pender County tornado warning didn't have a better signature at the time the warning came out, by the time I sat down within a few minutes. But we're going to hang tight here for a minute. This is moving now parallel to Richlands and Half Moon. And the radar crashed. Let's see if we can get the radar back. Hello, radar. Are you done rebooting yet? Thank you. Okay, so we're just outside Richlands. Matter of fact, it's not even raining in Richlands. And we're crossing. This is what I was trying to figure out when the radar crashed. Moving to the north and to the east. A storm that has piqued my attention. It's not warned, but since we were already sitting here doing coverage, what we're watching is the storm that is now crossing Gum Branch Road. Brian's Produce, Daisy May Farm Stand, Rock Creek Golf and Country Club. It's kind of the area I'm watching. Because you can see we've got green, we got red, although that particular radar scan on your right almost looks like what we would call a microburst or a downburst, where the storm is collapsing and pushing down. Because it's starting to arc in more of an outward kind of C shape. And if I were to compare that with our enhanced echo tops, this image is more than 10 minutes old. We're waiting for a new enhanced echo tops picture to come in. But remember, this storm at one point was flirting with 50,000 feet. And as of 10 minutes ago, it was at 40,000 feet. So if the storm is collapsing and it's pushing downward, it's kind of like throwing a rock into a pond. And when that rock comes down and hits the water, right, it goes out 360 degrees. So those winds may be doing less of this and more of this. If it was strong enough, then it would get a severe thunderstorm warning. But luckily, the strongest winds, based on radar observation, are only about 20 miles an hour. Certainly if you were out there, especially if you were at the country club, that's very windy. 60 miles per hour, by comparison, is what you would need for a severe thunderstorm warning. Technically 58 miles an hour, but who's counting? I think we're going to give this one or two more radar scans before we return you back over to regular scheduled programming. As we come up to 6:30 on the Sunday night, I'm James Brierton in Charlotte. We originally came on the air for our Pender County, North Carolina tornado warning. That ran its course until about 6:15 and was let go. But before I moved away from the microphone, I was keeping an eye on this storm here in Onslow County, adjacent to Pender, along the North Carolina coast, outside of Jacksonville, because the storm was trying to get itself going. And reading a message from the Weather Service. So the National Weather Service in Wilmington issued a tornado warning about 45 minutes ago that ran from about 5:45 until 6:15 for Pender County. And what we're learning now is that one of the National Weather Service employees was actually there in Pender County and saw rotation and scud clouds with their eyes. That combined with the radar signature is what prompted the National Weather Service to go ahead and issue that radar warning. It's interesting. They deemed it radar indicated as the source, even though there was somebody on the ground watching rotation and scud clouds. But that makes sense, because I think if they had said that a tornado was observed, the difference between that would mean that there was a tornado on the ground. So far, no funnel clouds or tornadoes have been reported or confirmed with the earlier Pender County tornado warning. And we're just waiting here to see if this storm in Onslow strengthens, although it seems to be in the last few minutes on a downward collapsing trend. Certainly heavy rain, lightning, and windy conditions. The Weather Service is also saying right now that they don't have any plans to go to Pender or Brunswick County to do any tornado surveys. Normally what happens during severe weather, during tornado outbreaks, is day one, the current day, they'll issue tornado warnings, and then if there's damage to be seen or debris to be studied, they'll go out the next day after the severe weather outbreak to study it, to survey it. As of right now, the Weather Service is saying they don't have any plans to do that. And I think the Brunswick one is a callback to yesterday when we were sitting here looking at the waterspouts that were coming on shore in Brunswick County. Okay, it's 6:31 now. This picture's from 6:29. I think in the next image we'll be able to confirm whether our trend is still going downward, in that the storm is weakening and collapsing on itself. That collapsing will make it breezier and potentially could knock over, twigs and small branches and things like that. But it would be well below severe criteria. So I just want to wait for one more picture to make sure that that's the continuing with the trend, and then we will probably let this live stream go for now. If you're new here, I'm James Brierton. I'm based in Charlotte, but we've got folks all over the Carolinas, north and south, interested in tracking and hosting for you conversations and streams all about weather, science, technology, and more. And if you're a new subscriber to us on YouTube or elsewhere because you've been checking out the Artemis launch coverage, we are huge space geeks. We are going to continue to offer live launch countdown coverages and the like, and interview shows and explanations about NASA's return to the moon. So if you are new and you're checking us out, thank you. We are a show about science, weather, technology, and more for an audience beyond the Carolinas. When it comes to tracking storms, this here is our backyard and our bread and butter. But we're looking forward to bringing you more space coverage on Artemis and the like, with interviews including that with Tony Rice, a NASA ambassador in Raleigh, who we've had on the show before and had lots of fun with. All right, so we got another picture in here, and we do have an area of winds opposing each other, moving away and towards the radar. If we put this into motion over the last few minutes, we can kind of see how the storm has kind of been doing that as it continued to move away from Catherine Lake, over Richlands and Half Moon, and now off to the north and to the east. But I'm really beginning to think this is probably more of a collapsing thunderstorm. We still don't have an updated scan for cloud tops. But again, on this picture from 6:23, it seems like we are dealing more with 40,000 instead of 50,000 as we earlier were. So I think the storm is on its way downward. But storms can cycle. We will keep an eye on it. What we're going to do right now, if you're watching us on YouTube, stay tuned. You will automatically join our Carolina WeatherNet, already in progress. It's a live severe weather dashboard tracking real-time conditions across the Carolinas with Skycam's forecast, current conditions, and real-time alerts from the Weather Service. As you saw earlier, if something else gets warned, it'll scroll at the bottom of the screen. What is now a black ticker will turn red. And if you're watching us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, or elsewhere, we'll be back as severe weather warrants. We'll be back for our weekly Wednesday night show. But please like, subscribe, and don't forget to check out us on YouTube or audio podcasts, wherever it is you listen to your audio podcast. We do have a slight risk for storms tonight and tomorrow. Very scattered, very weak. But the threat is out there. It's low, and we'll keep an eye on it. For now, from Charlotte, I'm James Brierton. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you again real soon.